So good evening everyone. Today I'm going to present on the topic genome structure, chromatin and the nucleosome. What is genome? Genome is the genetic material of an organism and it is present in form of chromosome. Now this chromosome can be either circular or linear. Now usually in prokaryotic cell the chromosome is circular and single in number, and in eukaryotic cell it is linear and more than one in number. And both the type of chromosome have some kind of challenges. For example, in case of circular chromosome, it requires topoisomerase to separate daughter molecule after replication of DNA, because both the daughter molecules are linked to each other. And in case of linear chromosome, usually the ends of linear eukaryotic chromosome needs to be protected from DNA degrading enzymes. So genome size is the total amount of DNA present in an haploid cell of an organism, and it varies in different organisms. Now, usually it is seen that as the complexity of organism increases, the genome size increases. But and this can be seen as we go from prokaryotic cell to unicellular eukaryotic cell and multicellular eukaryotic cell. But this is not always the case, and this is known as C-value paradox. For example, rice has almost 40 times a smaller genome as compared to the wheat. So even though they have apparently similar complexity, the genome size varies a lot. And it is seen that more complex organisms have decreased gene density. So what is gene density? Gene density is the number of genes present in one megabase pair of the genome of an organism. And usually two factors contribute to this decreased gene density observed in eukaryotic cell. First is increase in the gene size. So the gene size in eukaryotic organisms increases because of the region known as intron region, which are usually not present in the protein sequence and are spliced out from the mRNA before translation into protein. And the other is increase in the DNA between genes, which is known as intergenic sequence. So this intergenic sequence consists of many repeated sequences as well as non-coding DNA, which includes the regulatory sequence of an organism for the gene expression. So in just a minute. So in this diagram, we can see that in 60,000 base pair of genes, base pair of DNA, E. coli contains 57 genes and no intronic region and very less intergenic sequences in between. And this is the RNA polymerase gene. See the size of this gene. In case of unicellular eukaryotic such as yeast, it contains 31 genes and the intergenic region has increased, intergenic sequence has increased, and there are some introns. In Drosophila, the intronic region increases and the intergenic sequence also increases, and the size of the RNA polymerase gene is also more, and it contains intron. In human, only 2 genes is present in 60,000 base pair of DNA, and most of the region consists of repeated sequence, and in case of gene, it consists of intronic region. So from here to here, this whole is the RNA polymerase gene, and as you can see, the actual gene content is very less, and most of it is introns or repeated gene sequence. So as the complexity of organism increases, the gene density increases, and the intronic region and intergenic sequence increases. So this is the human genome, and 60% of this human genome consists of intergenic DNA, and this intergenic DNA includes all the non-coding DNA part, and the rest 40% contains the gene or gene-related sequence. And this intergenic DNA consists of either unique DNA or repeats. So there are 2 general classes of repeated DNA. One is the microsatellite DNA and other is the genome-wide repeats. Microsatellite DNA is composed of very short around 13 base pair randomly repeated sequence, and the most common microsatellite sequence are dinucleotide repeats such as CA dinucleotide repeat, and this may be generated because of errors in replication. And other is genome-wide repeats, and genome-wide repeats are larger than their microsatellite counterparts and may be more than 100 base pair in length, and many of them are more than 1 kilo base pair in length, and these are usually transposable elements. Transposable elements are those which can jump from one place to another in a chromosome. Other is unique DNA. This includes all the regulatory region and the microRNAs, which helps in regulation of gene expression. And the gene and gene-related sequence. So more than 50% of this DNA consists of this repeated sequence. Now, genes and gene-related sequence makes up another 40%, out of which the actual gene content is only around 1.5% of the total genome in case of human, and rest is the other region such as introns, untranslated region, which are not included in the protein. Then gene fragments. These gene fragments are formed because of insertion of transposable elements in between genes and thereby inactivating the gene and forming different many fragments of that gene. Then comes pseudogenes. Pseudogenes are those genes which are formed because of retroviruses. So retroviruses contain an enzyme which is known as reverse transcriptase, and usually when this infect a host, this reverse transcriptase may convert some of the host mRNA into the cDNA, and this cDNA gets incorporated in the genome. But because it lacks many regulatory regions and promoter, etc., so these pseudogenes are not able to form proteins. And so this is the overall summary of the human genome and the content of human genome. Then comes chromosomal duplication and segregation. So as we saw that this genome consists of chromosomes, so the a chromosome consists of three main regions. One is origin of replication. So these red marks are origin of replication. They may be many in case of eukaryotic organisms and usually single in case of prokaryotic organisms. So this origin of replications are the site where DNA replication machinery assembles and the replication begins at the origin of replication. And these are usually 30 to 40 kilobase per apart in a eukaryotic chromosome. Then comes the centromere. Centromere is usually single in one chromosome. So there is only one centromere in one chromosome, and it is required for correct segregation of the chromosome after DNA replication into the daughter cell. Then comes the telomeric region. These are the two ends of the linear chromosome, and this telomeric region contains many proteins. These proteins distinguish the natural end of the chromosome from the sites of chromosome breakage and other DNA break. So that's why this helps in preventing the action of DNA degrading enzymes and at these linear ends of the chromosome, and this also prevents recombination of DNA. Telomerase facilitate and replication through the recruitment of unusual DNA polymerase called telomerase. So because of the mechanism of DNA replication, the end region of the chromosome are usually not able to replicate. So special enzymes such as telomerase enzyme is required for replication of such DNA. So here we can see this is a single chromosome, and as DNA replication begins, it begins at the ORI region, and a new strand is formed by using the parental template strand, and these two sister chromatid are joined together by the centromeric region, and this centromeric region consists of kinetochores at which the mitotic spindle bind, and later on both the sister chromatid are separated, and each daughter cell receives one sister chromatid. So what happens if there are different number of centromere? So usually if one centromere is present, then the equal distribution of the sister chromatid will take place at both the poles of the cell. But if there is no centromere, then the spindle fiber will attach to any region of the sister chromatid, and random segregation of chromosome will take place. And if more than one centromere are present, there will be chromosome breakage and uneven distribution of the chromatid chromosomes. Now this is mitosis, and this is the interphase in which the chromosome is present inside the nucleus in decondensed form, which is chromatin material. And as the prophase starts and the duplication of DNA has already taken place, so two sister chromatids are formed in a chromosome, and these sister chromatids are joined together by proteins known as cohesin proteins, and these are the cohesin rings. And during metaphase, the spindle fiber attached to these chromosomes, and all the chromosomes are arranged at the equatorial plane. And there are two types of attachment. One is monovalent attachment, and other one is bivalent attachment. So bivalent attachment means that the spindle fiber generating from both the poles is attached to the kinetochores of the same chromosome. And this is always the case in mitosis. Mitosis will not proceed further if bivalent attachment do not take place. Monovalent attachment is not seen in mitosis. This is just to show what a monovalent attachment is. So in monovalent attachment, the spindle fiber is attached to the kinetochore of a chromosome, and this spindle fiber is originating only from a single centriole from a single pole. So in anaphase, this cohesion is broken down, and now the sister chromatid can be easily separated, and both the poles receive single sister chromatid, and so two daughter cells are formed, and each consists of single sister chromatid of the chromosome, and they are later decondensed to form chromatin thread. So, and other type of cell division is mitotic cell division. So the most significant difference between mitotic and meiotic cell division. Yes. So the most significant difference between mitotic and meiotic cell division occurs during the chromosomal segregation. So during metaphase 1 of the meiosis 1, the homolog chromosomes attach to opposite poles of microtubule-based spindle. So these are the homolog chromosomes, and each chromosome is attached to only spindle fiber originating from one pole. So this homolog will attach only to spindle fibers originating from this pole, and the other one will attach to the spindle fiber originating from the other pole. And so this attachment is mediated by kinetochore, and because both the kinetochore of each sister chromatid pair are attached to the same pole of microtubule spindle, this interaction is monovalent. So as you can see that all the kinetochore is attached to only one side of spindle, so this is monovalent attachment. And in case of meiosis 1, the resistance is mediated through physical connection between the homologs at the chiasma and the sister chromatids, and this is because of this cohesion protein. So as you can see, the cohesion protein is surrounded to this sister chromatid as well as the chiasma of the homolog chromosomes. And later on during anaphase, this cohesion proteolysis takes place, but the cohesion between the sister is maintained near the centromere, and therefore the two sister chromatids are paired. So the cohesion around these sister chromatids as well as the chiasma breaks, but the cohesion around the centromere still persists. So both the sister chromatids remain together during the anaphase, and the sister chromatids are not separated. So both the cell receive equal number of chromosomes, and the sister chromatid are present as it is in both the daughter cell. And in second meiosis is similar to mitosis. The second meiosis is similar to mitosis. So in that case, bivalent attachment takes place, and now the centromeric region also undergo proteolysis of cohesion, and sister chromatids are separated in the daughter cell of the second meiosis, and therefore 4 haploid gametes are formed after meiosis. Now comes nucleosome. So these chromosomes are formed because of the packing of this DNA by proteins known as nucleosomes. And each nucleosome is composed of core of 8 histone proteins and the DNA wrapped around them. So a nucleosome includes the histone proteins as well as the DNA which is wrapped around this histone protein. So the DNA most tightly associated with the nucleosome is known as core DNA. So this wrapped DNA is known as core DNA, and this extra DNA which is not very strongly associated with the histone is known as linker DNA. And this core DNA is wound around 1.65 times to the histone octamer. This is the histone octamer because it consists of 8 histone proteins, and it looks like a thread is wrapped around the spool. So in any cell, there are stretches of DNA that are not packed into nucleosome, and these regions of the DNA are usually engaged in gene expression, replication, or recombination. This is the nucleosome. This is the DNA wrapped around the nucleosome, the histone octamer. So eukaryotic cell commonly contain 5 abundant histones, which are H1 histone, H2A, H2B, H3, and H4 histone. Out of this, H2A, H2B, H3, and H4 histone are the core histones, and 2 copies of each histone is present in the core octamer, and they form the protein core around which the nucleosomal DNA is wrapped. Histone H1 is not part of the nucleosome core particle, and it binds to the linker DNA and is also known as linker histone. So since 2 copies of this 4 histone is present and only 1 copy of H1 is present, so the amount of histone H2A, H2B, H3 and H4 is double as compared to H1 in a cell. And because the DNA is negatively charged molecule, and it is so the nucleosome or the histone proteins are positively charged to facilitate the binding of DNA around this octamer, and therefore at least 20% of the residues in each histone is either lysine or arginine, which are positively charged amino acid. So as you can see, more than 20% of these residue are lysine and arginine, and around 32% of lysine or arginine is seen in H1 protein. This protein core of nucleosome is a disc-shaped structure that assembles in an ordered fashion only in presence of DNA. So when DNA is not present, this core histone is not present in form of octamer, and it usually forms intermediate assembly in the solution. So the histone fold, there are domains in the histone protein known as histone fold protein, and usually 3 histone fold protein are seen in all the histone, and in case of H2A and H2B and H3, there is additional histone fold domain. And other than that, there is an N-terminal tail and a C-terminal tail, but C-terminal tail is very small in all the histone, and the N-terminal tail is very long. So this is unstructured loop. So 3 domains are separated by 2 short unstructured loop in between, and both the end contains tail, and usually the N-terminal tail is very long. So the H3 and H4 histone first form heterodimer, and then 2 heterodimer together form a tetramer, which consists of 2 molecules of H3 and H4. So this consists of 2 H3 and 2 H4 molecule, and this is an H3 H4 heterodimer, tetramer, sorry. And other is H2A and H2B, which form heterodimer in solution, but they do not form tetramer. So the packaging of DNA in nucleosome takes place in the following way. First of all, the H3 histone and H4 histone forms H3H4 dimer, and 2 H3H4 dimer together form H3H4 tetramer. Similarly, H2A and H2B together form H2A H2B dimer. Now this H3H4 tetramer is further wrapped by DNA. So the DNA is wrapped around H3H4 tetramer before the H2A H2B dimer binds to it, and after the DNA is wrapped, then the 2 H2A H2B dimer together associate with this structure and form the nucleosome, which consists of H3H4 tetramer and 2 H2A H2B dimer along with the DNA which is wrapped around it, and these are the long N-terminal tail of the histones. So the core histone have amino terminal extension which is known as tail, and because it lacks a defined structure and it is accessible, this is known as tail, and it is accessible within the intact nucleosome. So these tails are the site of extensive post-translation modification. So the amino acid residue which are present on this tail are open for interaction with other proteins, and therefore many post-translation modification can take place which alter the function of this nucleosome, and these modifications include phosphorylation, acetylation and methylation on the serine, lysine, arginine residues of the tail. And 147 base pair of DNA is which makes up the core DNA is included in this structure, and the histone fold region of the H3H4 tetramer interact with the central 60 base pair of these DNA. So the H3H4 tetramer interacts with the 60 base pair out of the 146 base pair of core DNA. Then the 2 H2A H2B dimer associate with 30 base pair each, 30 base pair of DNA on either side. So total 120 base pair of the DNA is associated with these dimer and tetramer, and the amino terminal region of H3, which is present in the most proximal region of these, forms a fourth alpha helix that interacts with the final 13 base pair at each end of the bound DNA. So 120 base pair plus 13 and plus 13, that is 146 base pair of the core DNA is associated with the nucleosome. Once the nucleosome are formed, the next step in the packaging of DNA is binding of the histone H1. And histone H1 is small positively charged protein. It interacts with the linear DNA between nucleosome and further tightens the association between of the DNA with the nucleus. Now, these nucleosomes are further condensed into 30 nanometer fibers, and there are two models based on the different theories so far. So it is said that the 13 nanometer fiber is consists of either solenoid model or the zigzag model. So this is the solenoid model and this is the zigzag model. And so nucleosomes are tightly packed in such structure and therefore forms a 30 nanometer fiber. Now, unlike the solenoid model, the zigzag conformation requires the linker DNA to pass through the central axis of the fiber in relatively straight form. So here we can see that all the linker DNA, these linker DNA, they are surrounding the central axis, but they are not passed through the central axis. While in case of zigzag DNA, this linker DNA has to pass through the central axis of the fiber in relatively straight form. Therefore, longer linker DNA favors this kind of conformation, that is zigzag conformation. And because the average linker DNA varies in different species, so the form of 30 nanometer fiber may not always be the same. In some case, it might be solenoid structure. In some case, it might be zigzag structure. And sometimes both form of 30 nanometer fiber can be found in cell depending on the local linker DNA length. So based on the metabolic condition of and the genomic and the chromatin arrangement of the inside the cell, the size of the linker DNA may change, and depending on that, both kind of model can be formed in form of 30 nanometer fiber. Core histone lacking their amino terminal tail are incapable of forming 30 nanometer fibers. So this suggests that these amino terminal tail, which is N-terminal tail, are important for stabilizing the 30 nanometer fiber by interacting with the adjacent nucleosome. So the N-terminal tail of one nucleosome helps in interacting with the other nearby nucleosome and therefore stabilize this 30 nanometer fiber structure. Now this 30 nanometer fiber form further loops and condense to form a more compact structure, and this is known as chromatin fiber, and it forms a loop of around 40 to 90 kilobase pair that are held together at their base by proteinaceous structure, which is known as nuclear scaffold. So this blue region is the nuclear scaffold or chromosome scaffold, and around this the DNA is forming loop, and this DNA is made up of this 30 nanometer fiber. So this 30 nanometer fiber is further condensed and then held together by this chromosome scaffold. Then comes histone variants. So as I said that histone present in a eukaryotic cell are H1, H2A histone, H2B histone, H3 and H4. But there are some variants in this histone, in this common histone. Although most of the histone proteins are conserved, some variants is seen, and these histone variants may play many important roles. Such nucleosome may serve to demarcate particular region of chromosome or confer specialized function. So this helps in identifying certain region of the chromosome, which I will explain right now, and also may help in specialized function. For example, of the specialized function is when a chromosomal DNA is broken down. So the nucleosome which contains H2AX is a histone variant of H2A. So some of the nucleosome will contain this H2AX, and in case of chromosomal breakage, the H2AX histone variant, which is located near this break, is phosphorylated at the serine residue that is not present in H2A. So the nucleosome which contain H2A will not have this serine residue and will not be phosphorylated, but this H2AX histone variant will be phosphorylated, and this marks as a recognition site to which the DNA repair enzyme can this is recognized by the DNA repair enzyme, which are localized at the site and then can repair the DNA at the site of chromosomal breakage. So this type of histone variant helps in identification and recruitment of these DNA repair enzyme at the chromosomal breakage site. So this is an example of specialized function performed by this histone variant. Other is demarcating particular region of the chromosome. For example, another histone 3 variant, which is known as SENPA, is associated with the nucleosome that includes the centromeric DNA. So this SENPA S3 histone variant are present in the nucleosome, which are present in the centromeric region of a chromosome. And this SENPA consists of a long C-terminal tail, which helps in, which is said to help in binding with the kinetochore protein complex, and therefore these are associated in the centromeric region. And so this are specific to region in a chromosome, and this helps in specialized function. Now, so because the DNA is formed is wrapped around the histone octamer in form of nucleosome, so not all part of the DNA are accessible to proteins. So, for example, the DNA which is away from the core DNA and mostly near the linker DNA or the region of DNA which is not bound by histone octamer can easily access to the protein which has the affinity to this binding site. So this is a protein binding site 1. So the protein which usually binds to this site, this region of DNA, can easily bind because this is more accessible to that protein, which is the protein 1. And such events are frequent because this DNA is not packed, and the site which are present more close to the core DNA will rarely be able to bind to the protein which is associated with it. So the protein 2 will find it difficult to bind with its binding site because this is not freely accessible to the protein structure. So this is the model for gaining access to nucleosome associated DNA. Therefore, the position of the nucleosome is important in determining the interaction of protein to the DNA. So usually it is seen that the transcriptional start site, which is TSS, is devoid of nucleosome, so that the proteins such as RNA polymerase and other enhancer and initiation protein can easily bind to that region. And in heterochromatin, which consist of large number of nucleosome and which are closely packed, are not accessible for binding of such proteins. So, in addition to the intrinsic dynamics shown by nucleosome, the stability of histone octamer DNA interaction is influenced by large protein complexes such as nucleosome remodeling complexes. So, this nucleosome remodeling complexes can mediate this dynamic between the interaction of the nucleus, the histone octamer and the DNA interaction by 3 processes. One is sliding. So in sliding, so suppose this is the protein binding site and it is present inside the core DNA and therefore not accessible. So because of nucleosome remodeling complexes, sliding may take place, and this region which was earlier not accessible can now be accessible because all the histone octamers have slided along the DNA sequence a bit so that this region is now accessible. Other mechanism is ejection. So sometimes the histone region might be ejected out of the histone octamer might be ejected out of the chromatin, and this octamer has been removed from the site, and therefore now this protein binding site is easily accessible to the protein. Other thing is that these nucleosome remodeling complexes can change the dimer, which is suppose H2A H2B dimer can be replaced to H2AX H2B dimer, and so histone variants can be introduced in these nucleosomes. Now, just as many protein cannot bind to the DNA within a nucleosome, so if a DNA is tightly packed to the nucleosome, so the protein will not be able to bind. Similarly, if protein binding to the DNA, that is DNA binding protein, are closely associated in such a way that they are closer to the minimal region of DNA required to assemble a nucleosome. Suppose two proteins are closely arranged between two proteins are interacting with the DNA in a region which is less than 150 base pair. So now a nucleosome cannot be assembled here because this region is very small for a nucleosome to form. So this region is now nucleosome free. So binding of protein also affects the nucleosome structure. And sometimes what happens that proteins which have affinity for the DNA and can easily bind to the nucleosome. So wherever this protein will bind to the DNA, it will facilitate the assembling of the nucleosome near it, so that it can bind to the nucleosome as well as to the DNA. Now, because DNA bound in a nucleosome is bent, so nucleosome preferentially form on DNA which can be bent easily. So usually the AT-rich DNA, which has low number of hydrogen bond, can be easily bent. So those minor groups which are AT-rich are interacting with the histone octamer, and the region which are GC-rich, which are difficult to bind. So those minor groups which are GC-rich are away from the histone octamer. So each nucleosome will try to maximize this arrangement of AT-rich and GC-rich sequence. So the AT-rich sequence will be closer to the histone octamer so that the DNA can be easily bent, and the minor group consisting of GC region will be away from it. But despite being favored, such sequences are not necessary. So random DNA sequence can also form nucleosome. This can favor the histone nucleosome formation, but this is not necessary. And action of other proteins, including chromatin remodeling and transcription factor, can also move nucleosome from such preferred position. So this long N-terminal tail is the site of many post-translation modification, and these amino acid residues such as serine, lysine can be the site for many kind of modifications such as phosphorylation, methylation, acetylation, or ubiquitination. So, and this determines the function or the gene expression of a particular gene. So, for example, it is usually seen that the active genes which are active have H3K4 acetylation, H3K4 methylation, and genes which are inactive consist of H3K9 methylation or H3K27 methylation. So if methylation mark is present on the ninth lysine residue of H3 histone, then it will suppress the gene expression, suppress the transcription of that gene. And similarly, H27 is also a repressive mark. But if the methylation mark is present on H3K4 lysine residue, then it will promote transcription. And it is also seen that H3K27 methylation will suppress the transcription, while H3K27 acetylation will activate the transcription. So these are the sites of post-translation modification. So suppose this is an unmodified histone. So different acetylation mark can be present on different histone at different amino acid residue, such as H3K4 methylation, or etc., acetylation, etc. And similarly, methylation marks can be present, and this methylation or acetylation marks are further recognized by particular domains such as bromodomain or chromodomain, which may perform some other function. For example, a protein known as sp1 protein, heterochromatin protein 1, consists of chromodomain, which recognizes this H3K9 methylation, H3K9 methylation, and helps in heterochromatin formation. So this will bind to this methylation mark, and then different heterochromatin protein one will further interact with each other and form heterochromatin. These modified histone recruits enzyme that will further modify adjacent nucleosome. For example, many of these enzymes that acetylate histone tail, which are known as HAT, histone acetyl transferase, will include bromodomain that will recognize the same histone modification they create. So if a bromodomain of a histone acetyl transferase recognizes a acetylation mark in a nucleosome, it will further acetylate the adjacent nucleosome, and by reading and writing mechanism. And a key component of eukaryotic transcription machinery, which is transcription factor 2D, includes a bromodomain. So this bromodomain recognizes the acetylation mark, and therefore increased transcriptional activity is seen with the associated DNA. So this histone acetylation helps in increasing transcriptional activity of that gene. And other thing is, this acetylation mark also neutralizes the negative charge of the lysine the charge of the lysine residue, and therefore there is weak binding with the histone, and so the DNA is now loose, and therefore these transcriptional factors and RNA polymerase can easily bind, and the transcriptional activity of these regions is increased. Histone acetyltransferase heads catalyze the addition of acetyl groups to histone, whereas the histone deacetylase, which is known as HDAC, remove this modification. Similarly, histone methyltransferase will add methyl group to this histone, and histone demethylase will remove this modification. So all the images of the PPT has been taken from the Molecular Biology of Gene 7th edition by Watson. Thank you, everyone.